And every time he would do that at night, it was mostly at night, things would happen. The next day, I'd wake up with a gift. So forgive me honestly now, and I wrote this in my book, if I don't really care for gifts. Gifts to me don't mean love. Gifts to me mean you want something from me, and you're not doing it out of a kind heart, and your heart is not pure in it. Gifts to me mean you are giving me something so that you can take something from me. Hey guys, my name is Amanda Felix. I'm actually born and raised in Missouri and resided in Oklahoma, Arizona, Florida, Atlanta, and Texas. I went around to different places just trying to find out where I belong. And God took me on a journey to each state in different seasons. And here's my testimony. So when I was a young girl, being in Missouri, we were raised in a Christian household. Beautiful, beautiful. My mom was amazing. My dad was amazing. They never married. However, they still tried to make sure we had everything we needed, even whenever we felt like we didn't have anything, or when they felt like we didn't have anything, we felt like we did. They never wanted us to seem like we didn't have anything. And I'm not talking materialistic things. I'm talking food, water, clothes, the things we need for school, when there's book clubs, when we try to get that book. Actually, I remember this one book that was teaching a kid how to potty train, and I don't really understand why I wanted this book so bad. But my mom did whatever she could, even though it was only like $1 something at the time. I know books now are like $7, $8 or more. And she tried whatever she could. That's the kind of mother I have. And I'm telling you this to let you know that the things coming up that I'm about to share with you does not make my mom be a woman who she didn't stand on as a mother when I was a child. We all make mistakes. We all go through trials and tribulations and things in our life that derail us from the Lord or make us feel broken at times and rely on somebody to give us comfort. So in high school, my mom met a guy at a church. And he decided that he didn't want us kids living there anymore. And I was almost 17 years old. And for the state of Missouri, at that age, you have to go into the ward of a state. You cannot go and just live with a friend or anything like that. So my mom signed me over to the state. And nowadays they don't do this, but they put us in a room and my mom was there and all the social workers and everybody. And she had on glasses and she's crying in that moment. And I just looked at my mom like, if you're crying, why are you signing me over? But see, he had this hold on my mom. And through that, I was on the dance team and it was really hard to get to practice. It was really hard to even get to school. I had to walk to school many times. I was bouncing around from foster house to foster house. I didn't feel stable. And so I'm trying to learn these routines and I'm already feeling like I'm not enough and I'm set back because I don't have the talent and education with dance that everyone else does. So for me, I had to work extra hard. For me, learning a routine is learning at practice and going home, relearning it and relearning it and relearning it all night long. And for other people, it was learning the dance and practice and going home and just eating dinner and having a good time. For me, it was so much harder because I had to teach myself everything. But I stayed in it. I stayed in dance and I stayed in high school. And I want to say that because I want to encourage you young girls to never give up. If you believe in something and you love it, and don't give up and don't settle because you feel like you're going through hard times at that moment. You can push through. You know, we're supposed to have these adversaries to make us stronger. And these setbacks, trials and tribulations come, but joy comes in the morning. And so every single thing that has happened to me in high school, I don't look back on it and be like, poor me, pity me. I actually got stronger because of that. I lost a lot of friends, though. My friends didn't know how to handle me when I was going through this pain. I had outbursts of anger towards my friends. I didn't feel like I belonged in any group, even though I was one of the popular girls and I'm part of the dance team and I have beautiful friends, and they just didn't accept me as much during that period. And I was always late to practice because I had to walk. No one knew what I had to go through just to make it to practice that day, just to make it to school. They had no idea, but I didn't share it with anybody. I just kept pushing through. I'm hurting. I don't feel like anyone loves me. I didn't feel like I was important. And I just knew that if I just make it to practice, maybe that day will be better. If I just make it to school, I know I need to graduate. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. I was never taught how to go to college. I was never taught how to fill an application. My best friend taught me how to apply to school, and the school didn't really have programs at the time. So the foster care program had independent living, and they taught me how to apply for scholarships. And I ended up getting my senior year a scholarship to NEO A&M College in Miami, Oklahoma. And my mom, it was my senior year at the time, and I was about to graduate. I was about to turn 18. And if you're the ward of the state, when you turn 18, you get a full ride scholarship. You don't have to pay for college at all. You get a computer, you get an apartment when you graduate. And my mom called me right before I turned 18 and said, I've left the guy and I miss you and I want you to come home. And for me, that was the biggest moment of my life. It was the best moment to be able to hear your mom say, I want you back. I love you and I want you again. And I gave up everything. I gave up my full scholarship that would pay for school for the rest of my life by the state of Missouri. I gave up the computer. I gave up the apartment because I just wanted my mommy back. But I still got my dance scholarship from NEO. And I remember my mom came to the award banquet, and it was me and my best friend. And I just heard her say, as soon as they announced my name, she's like, thank you, Jesus. I was like, my mom is back. That's that moment I realized my mom is back. That the thing the enemy had on her was no more. And that my mom knew Jesus again. Not that he ever left her, but the mindset that the power of this abuse this man had on her took her mind. And later in life, I didn't realize that I would be in that same position. I left NEO college. I was drinking a lot. I was still hurt by everything. I didn't have a place to go home to whenever it was spring break for everybody else. Everybody else got to go home and be with their families, and I actually asked the dorm if I could stay there because I worked at a restaurant. I would walk to work, and then we'd have dance practice after the spring break. But since I didn't have anywhere to go, I had to stay there, and that's so embarrassing. But where else was I going to go? Because honestly, some parents believe that after you get out of high school and you go to college and you're in the dorm, you really don't, you're on your own. You're an adult. And I don't think my mom understood what college really was about, is that I need to come home on breaks. I don't want to be by myself. But I honestly don't think I even expressed that either. So that feeling of abandonment, feeling of alone, that spirit that the enemy wanted on me started young. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like I was abandoned. I felt like I was alone, and that came on me. And literally, I'm going to tell you guys, it has been on my life until recently, that about a year or two ago, I finally broke the bondage of I am that I am not enough. Like I always thought I wasn't enough. I finally broke that bondage, and I broke the bondage of orphan mentality, the bondage of feeling like no one sees me and that I don't have any home. Foster care is what kicked on the spirit and the feeling of I don't ever have anywhere. I don't have a home. Like I don't feel like there's anywhere I belong. So I became a runner, just like I did in foster care. When you bounce around from house to house, and that's why I really want to talk to all you young kids who also are in foster care. That feeling that you have sometimes whenever you feel like you're bouncing from house to home and in this instability of something does not define you. That feeling that you feel like you don't belong anywhere does not define you, because you do belong somewhere. You belong to the kingdom of God, and you belong to Jesus. And if you give your life to him and just let him in and let him break you free from that, you will live a life that's prosperous and abundant. And I wish I knew that at that age. Even though I was raised in a Christian household, I went on my own and I derailed. And I wish someone would have set me down and told me that if I just give my all to Jesus and let him lead my life, that I won't feel all those things and I won't have to walk alone. So the alone thing came on me, and I continued to live that life. After I left the first year of college from drinking and partying, I went back home to my hometown, and I met a guy. And I met him at a party, and he was actually someone from my childhood that remembered me, but I vaguely remembered him because, I mean, my childhood was great when I was young, but my memory when trauma happened to me started depleting. And this guy came to my life and was this awesome man, shining armor, making me feel like I was beautiful, making me feel like I was the only girl in the room. And like he would give me anything, not just materialistic, but anything I wanted. He would go to bat for me, and he convinced me that he was going to marry me. And I was like, I never thought of marriage. I don't even know what that means. I never really desired marriage. My mom never spoke to us about that. Never really told us that about wedding dresses. I mean, I don't know any of that. And so this guy's just telling me, I'll take care of you the rest of your life. And little by little, he was removing me from everybody I knew, family, friends. I was living in this place. It was like a house, paid like $500 a month, and I was like renting out the room. And he was telling me, move in with me, everything will be great. Like, you don't have to pay a dime. And I was a server at this Mexican restaurant at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I need this. This is like, finally somebody wants me. Finally, I feel like I'm loved. And it started out with all these say. But see, when things move so fast like that, there's a motive on it. And this guy took on my mind, just like the guy did my mom. And my mind was warped into what this guy was telling me so deep that he started abusing me. And not only was he physically abusing me, he would sexually abuse me and mentally abuse me. And I would just I wouldn't understand. Like, he would come home at night and just talk to me like I was dirt. And I didn't understand who this person was. And he had these bright blue eyes, and he would look at me, and the eyes that I always was so attracted to were not blue. They were so scary. And I would look up in these eyes as he was hitting me for no reason. And I would just cringe myself thinking, this is going to be over soon. God, is this going to be over soon? And then he took me and relocated me all the way to Arizona. And that's when things got worse. So here's my timeline. So I'm in college, could have went far, but I decided to go back to my hometown, and then I met a man who removed me from my hometown and my family and my friends and took me to Arizona. And I was there for 2 years, hidden. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody knew my address. Nobody knew how to get a hold of me. That's when MySpace was cool. Told y'all my age. And I thought, oh, things are going to be different. Those were the promises he gave me. I'm not going to treat you like that anymore. We're going to have a new, fresh life. Everything's going to be great. We moved in with his mom and dad, and everything we took was mine. It was my car. I had a Xterra. We pulled the U-Haul from the back of it. And when we get there, he promises me all these things. But see, after every time he came home and was drinking, or he was drinking at the house, and a barbecue outside that should be fun, and everyone's drinking and barbecuing and having a good time, ended up being the worst days of my life, because I knew at night when he's too drunk and when everything gets quiet and still, and when mom and dad go to sleep, it's time for him to whip up on me. So he would physically abuse me that night, or he would sexually assault me. And sexually assaulting means you are, without my permission, he is putting himself on me. And every time he would do that at night, it was mostly at night, things would happen. The next day, I'd wake up with a gift. So forgive me honestly now, and I wrote this in my book, if I don't really care for gifts. Gifts to me don't mean love. Gifts to me mean you want something from me, and you're not doing it out of a kind heart, and your heart is not pure in it. Gifts to me mean you are giving me something so that you can take something from me. And I lived like that for 2 years. And I remember at the time I had this Xterra, and I ended up enrolling in, I don't even know how he ended up letting me do this, but I ended up enrolling in dental assisting school. And we lived in Mesa, Arizona, and dental assisting school for me was in Phoenix. So he ended up enrolling in another school too, and it was like catty corner for me. So it's like a tech school. So the building was catty corner how the campus was. And my school hours sometimes were different than his. And at this very night, mine was different. And there was a girl in school that I loved, and she was going through a hard time with her life and her boyfriend at the time. And so I would always just uplift her and talk to her. In the moment, this is where, and that's when I knew the Lord was giving me so much compassion for people. And I cry now because I have so much compassion for people in this. I'm healed from it. I'm not crying for that. I'm crying for the ones watching this that are going through it now. Because it's hard to break free from this. And the girl that was in my class was going through something like that. And I was encouraging her and trying to help her in the midst of me going through the same thing and the pain. Because all I wanted was for her to be okay. And I remember one night I stayed a little after to be there for that girl. And I came home a minute late. Like I think class, I want to say I would usually get home by 9:30 because class would be out at 9. And it took 30 minutes to get back to Mesa. And so I was a minute late and I couldn't even get in the house. I didn't even turn my key off. By then, he already came out into my car, sat in the passenger seat, and was like, "You're a minute late." And I was just like, okay. Like, I just knew it was coming. And I got beat so bad in the car that day, like the back of my head, everything that it's so sad to say, but I was so used to it that I just like ducked down and just held my breath and was just like, Lord, let this be over. And, then after that, he asked me to take him to Jack in the Box to get food. And still this day, I will never eat at a Jack in the Box. I remember I was on a road trip one time and my friends were like, oh, let's go to Jack in the Box. I didn't say a word, but I just can't eat there because it was almost after every abuse, it was like, give her food or give her, like, it was like cheese fries from Jack in the Box. Like, it was like, give her this, give her a gift, high heels. I got Dolce & Gabbana sunglasses. I got pink heels, yellow heels. Like, that's the time when your belt smashed your heels all the time. And like, everything was whatever I wanted Or if I had been at the mall and he had seen me looking at something, I got that afterwards. And I was always promised that it would never happen again. But every time again, it did. And I finally got a hold. Oh, he was cheating on me. I mean, it was a disaster. And I finally got a hold of one of my friends in Joplin. And she was in college at the time at Northeastern State University in Tahlequah. And I will always be so thankful and grateful for her heart, because she bought me a bus ticket. And she's like, I don't even know how. It's by the grace of God I got a hold of her. It was on MySpace. And she got me a bus ticket. And I had the suitcase packed. And I had it packed and I put it right underneath the bed. So when he had went to work, I was going to leave for the bus. And I had told his stepmom, hey, can you drop me off at the bus station? I didn't tell her what was going on. I just said, hey, I mean, she didn't know whether I had that planned or anything. So he came home early. And so I just slid the suitcase underneath. And I go, okay, this isn't going to work. Somehow, some way, I got to get out of here. And it's hard to get out, guys, because it's like a bondage mentality on you. It's like they have your mind warped, thinking no one will ever love you but them. No one will ever see you past who you are. Like, you're not even a person. Like, you're not even human at that moment. You don't feel like you're just like, the way they talk to you and put you down and do things to you, it's like you are scum. And so you even start believing that. And that's what's so sad about this bondage thing, that is you start believing every lie that they say to you, and you get stuck because now your mind is crippled. And so I just knew, I was like, I learned manipulation from him. And I said, I have got to manipulate him and get a plane ticket. And so I came to him like, my dad's sick. And my dad was old at the time, and he had had a heart attack in 2004. And so he still kind of had that like weak coughing, things going on. And so, sometimes he didn't feel good. And so I said, okay, I'm going to manipulate him into believing my father was sick and I need to fly out. So I told him, hey, my father's sick and I need to go fly back to Missouri. But the closest airport that would probably be the best is Tulsa. If you can fly me to Tulsa, I promise I'll be back. He's like, okay, I'll get you a round trip. I said, no, get me a one-way, because I actually don't know how long I'm going to be there. It could be a week, could be 2 weeks, and I don't want you to get a flight. And I'm just saying all kinds of stuff that I just think it's what I'm supposed to say to get out. And first, by the grace of God, and for some reason, he just goes, okay. He bought me a one-way ticket. I flew to Tulsa. My best friend picked me up from Tulsa Airport, drove me back to Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where she went to college. And I tried out for the dance team, made it, got a scholarship, enrolled in college. And it was probably, I want to say a month later, he found me there. He pulled up in a Chrysler 300 and said, this is your car. Because, by the way, my Xterra got repoed in Arizona. So he gave me a car, and I knew that's just a gift. But, he was such a smooth talker. Guess what I did, guys? I let him live with me for a little bit, and it was like a week he lived with me, and because he said he was traveling, and I believed it. And he abused me again so bad that this time he was trying to kill me. He picked me up and threw me in my car, his car that he claimed was mine, and was trying to drive into a tree. He drove so fast that I was just praying to God, this cannot be the end. This cannot be the end. And he just stopped. He didn't hit the tree. And then he pulled into a circle drive, which is where my job was. And he was going to zoom back around. And I opened the door, because in Chrysler 300s, if you open the inside door, it automatically unlocks. So I opened it up and I rolled out. And that's the last time I ever saw him. But before that, before he threw me in the car, he was choking me so bad that I told God, that is not the last face I want to see. And because I felt like I was going, so I turned my head to the right, and that's when he had let go. That's when he had threw me in the car and drove me and tried to get into the tree. After I rolled out, they called the cops and stuff, but nobody ever got a hold of him. Nobody ever found him. He disappeared. In 2008, 18, he called me and he said, he's crying and he said, Amanda, will you ever forgive me? And I just said, you've already been forgiven. Because he has. Because in 2015, I moved to, I'll backtrack in a second, but 2015, I went into a place with the Lord where all I did was get to know him on a deeper level. It was reading the Bible day and night. It was no drinking. It was no partying. It was no going out. It was getting rid of everybody in my circle at the time. Like I still talked to people, but I knew this secluded part that God needed me in was very important. I knew that this secret hiding place he was putting me in was so important because I had to learn how to forgive him. I had to learn how to even forgive my mother when I thought I already did. And I had to learn how to love myself in order to love other people, because I would have compassion for people, but I didn't love myself enough. I hated myself. I was doing all these great things, but I put myself down. I spoke down to myself, just like he did me. Everything he would say to me was still on me, and I would say that to myself. In 2012, I lost my dad. I was dancing for arena football at the time, and I was working for a law firm working towards my LSAT to take the test to get into law school. And I got a phone call at like 9:30 in the morning, and they said, your dad had passed away. Oh, gosh, no one wants to hear that when they're a daddy's girl. It broke me to the core. And guess what? Being the runner I am, guess what I did? I packed up everything I owned and ran to Florida with my friend who I danced with on the dance team. And I said, I'm going to start everything over. And I just put myself into work. And I remember my dad said, after all these relationships I was in, he said, leave the boys alone and follow your dreams. And that was probably one of the last big conversations we had before he passed. And I remembered that. And I didn't want to date. Like, you couldn't date me. I was like my wall went up to the T, like lock, bolt, cement wall, wood on top of that, like pressed down, shaking together. Yes. I was just so centered into God, me, and building new friendships, getting to know myself, working new jobs. I started working in the nightlife. I started working towards my master's degree. I put law school on pause, and I just went all in for God. And I started witnessing in all these dark places that God called me to, and no one had any idea anything I was doing until my book came out.
That's right. Be still.
Yeah.
Share a little bit about it, Amanda.
So Be Still is actually, I'll read the back to you guys because it kind of just sums up really the whole story and testimony. But Be Still, it's called that because God had to shake me in different seasons of my life to be still. After losing Dad, I went 90 miles an hour just doing everything that I wanted to do. I got an agent, ended up doing modeling, acting. I wrote my first song, ended up singing at different places. I started writing scripts. I haven't put those out yet. Those are coming soon. And just doing everything I ever want to do because Dad said, follow your dreams, right? So I knew that's what I needed to do. And everything that was my gifts, I wanted to learn about within me. So I taught myself more. And the back says, Amanda is a living testimony of a woman who couldn't catch a break. There were many times where she lost it all and had to start all over. Being abused physically, mentally, and sexually, she knows what it's like to feel unworthy, not enough, and abandoned. She has endured so much heartbreak, losses, and pain that she trained her mind to suppress the trauma and stay busy. Going 90 miles a minute, working multiple jobs, not finishing projects, and running on lack of sleep. Everything came to a halt when God had to shake her in different seasons of her life to just be still. Being still was not popular to her, but it is where she learned how to be vulnerable at the feet of Jesus. All the lonely, crying nights, heartache, suicide attempts, she pushed through and accomplished all her heart's desires. The stories you will read may seem shocking, touch your heart, and impossible to endure, but it is her desire to share every moment with you in hopes that you will never give up. Her heart for the readers of this book is hope, to encourage the reader to answer the call to be still. And I always say your testimony is your masterpiece. And my mom always says you can't lead if you don't read.
Ooh, that's
Yes.
right. Love that. Love that, Amanda. And I highly encourage you guys to go grab the book right now.
Yes.
Available on Amazon.
Amazon and also my website. If it's easier, it's amandafelix.com. And on the website, if you order from that, I will sign an autograph to you because it come directly from me and my team. And if you order on Amazon, we also have the Kindle version for you guys and the paperback and the hardback.
Love it. Love it. Amanda, thank you so much. Before we exit out of here, I want you to take a moment and just what would you speak over those right now listening in that may be going through sexual abuse right now? And they literally came across this video on YouTube or Facebook or IG, a reel. Like, what would you say to them right now if they're going through it and they don't necessarily even want to be still? They want to run. Like, but yeah, what would you empower them with?
Well, any type of abuse is not of God. And any type of chaos and confusion is not of God. Anything that doesn't line up with your spirit and is contradicting right here. You can touch your belly right here and feel, am I feeling a tug right here? Am I in a situation that doesn't bring me love, like the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, forbearance? You know, any of these things that don't bring you peace, that's a key word, is not for you. So if you are in a relationship or even a friendship that's causing sexual abuse, physical abuse, even mental abuse, even spiritual abuse. I went through that in a relationship before as well. And tell somebody. Anybody that you think you can trust, tell them what you're going through. Because what the enemy does is he tries to silence us. Someone once told me that there was a year where the enemy had duct tape on my mouth. Anybody who's going through human trafficking, nobody has the power and control to take over your body, your mind, and your spirit. Those things belong to the Lord. Your body is a temple and a holy sacrifice. And you were called for such a time as this to listen to this video. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are a child, daughter, son of the King. And you were made to live and not die. And I know that when you're going through sexual, physical, and mental abuse, you want to take your life. I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to even attempt it. I know what it feels like to cry out and nobody listens. But you serve a God that is a God of the impossible. And the bondage that you feel on right now and the separation from everybody that they are trying to isolate you in, pray to the Lord because he will rescue you. I always like this song by Lauren Daigle. You are not hidden. There's never been a moment you were forgotten. You are not hopeless. Though you have been broken, your innocence stolen. Because he says, I hear you whisper underneath your breath. I hear your SOS, your SOS. Because this is what God's going to do for you. I will send down an army to find you in the middle of the darkest night. It's true. I will rescue you. And if you're going through anything, you can reach out to me at amandafelix.com. And I have a program called Amanda's Daughters, where we rescue girls from human trafficking. We also be a mentor for young girls who actually are victims of sexual abuse, physical abuse, any sort of abuse, even people who have defended themselves and ended up killing their trafficker or their abuser because of self-defense. We are there for you. We hear your cry. And we want to be there for you because I know what it feels like to experience these things. I know what it feels like to walk with scars on your face, bruises you're trying to hide, show up to dance practice and a game with a huge bruise on me, trying to hide everything with sorrow in my eyes. And I do not want that on anybody. I also lost my mom in 2019. And anyone who's going through the brokenness of losing a loved one or losing somebody that was your best friend, that hurt and pain you're going through will not last forever. But the moment that you give it to God, because the word says that he is close to the brokenhearted and he will rescue you. So my job on this earth is to be a Deborah in the Bible, to go with you into the dark places and to come and rescue you. And so if you're going through anything at all, you are welcome to reach out to me at amanda@amandafelix.com or go to my website, amandafelix.com, and reach out to me, and I will reach out to you personally, not my team. Because I believe in being personal with people who are broken and hurting. And so my purpose and my life and everything that I do centers around people who are in these positions. The compassion and mercy I have on my heart is not, honestly, just for the victim. God gave me a soft heart for even the accusers. Because forgiveness is what we need to do in order to be able to push on and be who we are called to be. And this moment you're in will not last forever. God is going to send you an angel. There's been so many stories and encounters in this book, guys. If you read this book, I promise you will come out of it on fire. You will come out of this book knowing that you have a purpose and that God called you for such a time as this. That your story is your testimony, and your testimony is your masterpiece, and you are not forgotten. And God hears your cry, just like he did Hannah. Out of anguish, when you cry on your pillow at lonely nights, I know what that feels like. When you have planned your life escape, I know what that feels like. When you've prayed God to take you out, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to go through everything that you're going through. And even if there's things you have been through that I haven't, I just want to love on you and be there for you and help you through your time of need so that you will be in my position one day and that you will be able to share your story so that the other girl or guy on the other side of the camera will be able to hear your story and be saved from it. Because that's what we're here for, is so that we can share our story so somebody else will come to know the Lord and your story will change the life of somebody else. And remember, you cannot lead if you do not read. And I hope you guys have a blessed and abundant year. And I am so, so thankful to even be here sharing my testimony. I love you guys. And remember, God has got your back.